There we go. Music's pumping. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a weekend edition of Let Freedom Ring. My guest this week, Nick Cappa. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Quick shout out to AEW last night, Double or Nothing, their second edition of that pay-per-view. Absolutely fantastic without having a crowd, getting very unique with the stadium Stampede match as well. But absolute A+ to Cody Rhodes and the boys of AEW. But Nick, let's get to know you just a little bit.
Sure, man.
Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
So I originally grew up in the town of Des Plaines, Illinois. And believe it or not, Des Plaines, Illinois is referred to as the city of destiny, actually. Not to be confused with, though, the fact that we have the first ever corporate McDonald's in my hometown. And
cool.
Just down the road is the house of the legendary John Wayne Gacy. So
oh, jeez.
that's two things I got going for me from my hometown there.
Awesome. Now, where are you living now?
Right now, I live in New Hampshire on the seacoast. After a brief stay up in the state of Wisconsin, where I went to college and hung out afterwards, and then I decided to come out here and see what New England had to offer.
Awesome. So Wisconsin. So, how did you like Wisconsin compared to Illinois?
Wisconsin is 10 times better, man. No toll roads, no crappy governor. No crappy, this and that. I highly recommend anybody that hasn't been there to go to check it out. If you like the craft beer, cheese, and meat, it's a great place to be.
All right. Awesome stuff. Now, what's one thing everybody should know about you?
Oh, man. One thing everybody should know about me. Well, it's a funny thing, but I have 3 tattoos, and I'm a man that was nervous to get tattoos, but then when I finally did, all 3 of my tattoos resemble the Chicago Cubs and my love for the boys in blue. So yeah, I got 3 tattoos and they're all Cubs themed, and people call me crazy, but I call myself a diehard. So
awesome. We're gonna talk about the Cubs quite a bit in this episode. Sticking with the theme of the show, I ask every guest this: what does it mean to you to be an American?
So that question I pondered a little bit after I saw that you asked me that, because during these trying times, it's really made me think about what it's like. And I guess to me, it's just, being humble, paying forward, the respect that, people have brought from, for us, and just really trying to do my, every day's, duty, and making, each day better than it was the day before.
All right, good answer. All right, it's going to take us into current events. Now, obviously, what's dominating all our lives right now is COVID-19. How has your life changed during the outbreak?
My life has changed, not from a physical standpoint, but I think from a mental standpoint, and how I view the world, and how I view people. I work in a grocery store. I can't tell you which one, because of privacy issues.
Yeah.
But the store, I've been there, and it's really given me a firsthand experience on how people are treating this and how people are going about it. 90% of people wear masks and they comply, and then you got the all those crazy people that think that this is a hoax, and this is a conspiracy, and all of that. And at first, COVID, I thought it was no big deal either. Then I saw the impact of it, and so now it's just made me try to be as humbling as I can, and take each day not very lightly, but just have fun, man. Have fun. That's the best you can do, and one day we'll all be out of this, and hopefully be back to normal, or as as normal as we can be.
No, that's for sure. I don't think any of us really understood the magnitude probably even two and a half months ago.
No, I didn't.
Uh,
I certainly thought it was just, like the common, a cold and flu, and then I saw really what it was, doing to, like the people, and I was like, holy crap, this is a thing. So,
yeah,
and that's one thing that it frustrates me when, people don't take their, measures, because you could be, like healthy as a clam, but it's not just about, you. It's about the people around you and older people and people with underlying, conditions. And it's very hard for me to wrap my head around the people that say, well, we should be let out, and people who aren't healthy should be told to stay home. So then I asked the question of, so you're telling people that are unhealthy to stay home, but you don't want to stay home, and you're yelling at the government for making you stay home. So it's just a chain reaction of selfishness. But I think for the most part, America has done their due, diligence. I will say that, not being originally from New Hampshire, New Hampshire has done a great job, in my opinion, of their stay at home and the lockdown. So I just want to give a shout out to the state of New Hampshire and Governor Sununu for all his hard work.
yeah, no, no, that I think we have done a really good job. And just getting back to the mask thing, I also think it's a respect thing for other people at this point because, whether even if it was a 1% chance that you couldn't spread this to somebody else, is it really that hard to wear a mask for
Exactly.
20 minutes in the
And
grocery store?
it's so funny. So I tell people when they come in and they don't want to, wear a mask, or they want to, complain, I say, you guys only have to wear one for the 15 minutes that you're in here. Me and
Yeah.
my coworkers have to wear one for 8 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. We have to wear one if we want to be able to provide for our, ourselves and our, families. And it's not fair to us or to other, you know, customers, for you to, come in and say, oh, well, I don't need one. I'm fine. And it's also funny, to me, I've seen a lot of older people refuse to wear one because that's just not how their, generation was, and they're too proud of their, that, and that scares me because, older people are at high, risk. So it's just, every day is, something, crazy and different, and that's why I just try to, take each day for, that day, and know that, tomorrow's probably going to be something new.
Yeah. No, no, good point. Good point there. Any concerns about leaving hand sanitizer in your car? Apparently, it's if it's in there for too long and it gets too hot, it blows up. Any worries? Any hand sanitizer? I took some. I left some in my car the other day and said, you know what? Maybe this is. I'll take this in with me.
No, so I only keep I keep a spray bottle one in my car. I don't keep the actual liquid one in my car, and I keep the spray one in my center console. So I mean, well, listen, if it explodes, it explodes. But I'm not. That's the least of my worries at this point.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Um, recently, well, a couple days ago, Hana Kimura 22-year-old wrestler out of Japan, committed suicide, it looks like, due to, well, what a lot of people are saying is she was having some online bullying issues. Pretty young kid, only 22. Do you think online bullying is an issue that needs to be discussed more? People are
So,
pretty nasty online.
oh, absolutely. So, as a kid, growing up in the age of where, social media was, taking off, whether it was AIM, the the, you know Facebook and Twitter, and growing up with a speech impediment, as I'm sure you've, been able to, tell here. I got a stutter that I was, born with. So between the stutter, and I was a fat kid, growing up, so the cyberbullying was definitely real. I think today it's even more real because, like kids are so, into their phones and technology and all of it. I truly believe that Facebook and Twitter are the devil, if you ask me. I have both of them, but I really try to limit what I do on there and how many times I go on there and choose and pick and choose people I want to troll because at the end of the day, what a comment on Facebook is it could ruin somebody's their livelihood, or if they're having a bad day, and that's just one thing that that sets them off. So I think that cyberbullying needs to be addressed more, and needs to be taken more more seriously. But I don't know how you go about that. It's it's
Yeah, it is tough because I think there's a lot of great stuff with social media. I mean, I wouldn't even know you, if there wasn't social media.
right.
Um, I think there's so much good to it. I will tell you this, I grew up in an age where all we had was instant messenger, and that was like the beginning of it. But I can only imagine what it's like to be a kid now with all these outlets.
Yeah, there's too
Uh,
much.
when Trump took office, Melania Trump said that she, was kind of going to attack this issue. I don't know much of what she's really done with it, and her husband may be one of the number one offenders of
Yeah,
bullying online.
I was gonna say I don't really know what she's done a lot, but whatever she's done, her husband doesn't really seem to think it's a good idea because every time I go on Twitter, and I know he doesn't tweet off it or not, but the Donald Trump account on Twitter is just baffles me because I just don't understand how a president has that much time to fucking. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
No, it's all good.
I don't know how he has that much time to bebop around and tweet about garbage when there's coronavirus and unemployment and that there's the the stock market is in the tank. So man, and it's funny. So people my age say that cyberbullying began with Xbox Live parties when Call of Duty when you would just scream at people and call them all sorts of names. So that really
Yeah.
began, I think. But the age of social media is here to stay, and I think it's just going to be a thing that, unfortunately, as awful as it is, it's going to take the lives of many more people until it's addressed. And I really don't know what the answer is. So I couldn't tell you.
It's tough, and I do think that Facebook is trying their best to ban people when they are doing these things. I have a friend. I won't use his name on the show, but he's been on the show before. That he'll troll his own friends,
Yeah.
and he'll get banned for 30 days. And he'll be like, "Well, there's a friend of mine," but Facebook can't decipher. But all it takes is one person to report you, and someone else
Right.
could see him doing that, and so they are trying. I think you're right. There's no simple answer to it.
No, no, there's not.
Let's gonna bring us into pop culture now. Yesterday was the 21st anniversary of the death of Owen Hart. Um, I got to watch his episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Have you seen anything on Owen Hart at
Uh,
all?
so
Growing up.
I've watched the Dark Side of the Ring. I haven't watched the Owen Hart episode yet, but I was a little too young to remember the Hart Foundation in their, in their prime. Obviously, everybody knows, Bret, the, like a Hitman Hart, and the Montreal, screw job and all that. But I never really dove into the Owen Hart thing. And I think it's because Owen Hart died when I was like three, two or three. So I watched like Brett in the early 2000s when he was just finishing up, and then he would come back for the reunions and the anniversaries and all that stuff. But I never really dove into the whole story of Owen Hart, and not because I wasn't interested. It's just that wasn't my era of wrestling. My era was John Cena, Kurt Angle, The Rock, Brock Lesnar, Stone Cold, The Undertaker, Kane, all of those guys. So I was more concerned or consumed by those all of those guys. And it's funny that you mentioned 21 years ago of Owen Hart dying, but a couple days ago, 22 years ago, W- WWE introduced the All American Badass character for the Undertaker, And
Yes.
as a kid, that was my favorite character. When I would hear "We rolled and rolling" and Undertaker would come down his motorcycle with the American flag, man, as a kid, I would get so jacked up and ready to rock and roll. I loved Kane and the Undertaker. That stuff was my stuff growing up.
I actually like that. I did like the American Badass character. A lot of people, they're very diehard to the Undertaker, the dead man.
Yeah,
Um, I did like the American Badass character as well.
yeah,
It ran its course.
right,
But I do want to say too about Owen Hart. It was pretty surreal watching that documentary because I remember seeing him holding his kids in the ring years prior, and to see them all grown up, and that
yeah,
was kind of interesting. But
yeah,
Chris Jericho mentioned something too, and it kind of stinks because, like you said, you didn't really get to grow up seeing Owen Hart. But if you think about who came over in 2000, Eddie Guerrero came over, Chris Benoit. We all know how his life tragically
yeah,
ended, both of theirs.
yep,
Dean Malenko came over, Perry Saturn. So Jericho talked about there could have been a resurgence of Owen Hart's career, and I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, Kurt Angle would come at
yeah,
the end of the year,
yep.
so very
Yeah,
unfortunate.
I
Um, it,
definitely think Owen Hart still had a lot left in the tank, and him and a Brett could have probably ran the Hart dynasty for a couple more years. But it's a tragic accident, and that's, and I'm not saying it was Owen Hart's fault, but that's the risk you run when you work in a high profile industry. Because if I remember correctly, you said he fell from the top of the Raptor, correct?
yeah, and the documentary kind of reveals that they went with a new crew. And Martha Hart is his wife, widow now. She had done a lot, and the clip that they used, if you saw this, you'd be, how was that supposed to hold a grown man? You know,
Right,
Pretty terrifying stuff. And you're right. The thing was, Sting had been doing that for a long time. Owen, that wasn't the first time Owen had done that stunt either.
right. Because Shawn
Um,
Michaels also did it at a WrestleMania where he came, on the,
yeah,
flying down to the ring. And didn't they say that Shawn almost f- fell when he did that?
there is a story behind that. I don't recall exactly what it is, but he had some issues as he was about to go down.
Yeah,
I gotta say, I don't think it's. I'm glad that most wrestling companies don't do this anymore.
yeah.
I really think that was Sting. That should have just been Sting's thing in WCW.
I agree.
And I don't think Owen needed it as a comedy. That's the worst part about it. Was a
Yeah,
comedy act with
and it took his
bringing back.
life.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's very very heartbreaking. Who knows what he could have done? But that brings us to Judge Judy is calling it quits after 25 years. My mom is going to be very upset, as she's a diehard Judge Judy fan. Have you ever watched any Judge Judy?
So it's funny. I was reading the notes that you sent over, the other day, and I actually didn't even know that Judge Judy was retiring. I knew she was up there in age, but I grew up actually watching, Judge, Judy, and that's funny because as a kid, why the heck, would you want to watch that? But every day after school, I would go over to my, grandparents' house, and it was, the news, Judge, Judy, the Wheel of, Fortune, all that stuff. So while I think Judge, Judy is not the best, TV, but I don't, really, I really, you know, care for all reality, TV. It's nice to, see that a woman was able to put herself, self in such a powerful, authority